Welcome to Viewpoints with Brenda. I'm your host, Brenda Ntambirwechi, and on this podcast, you'll hear plenty of conversations with African professionals, change makers, innovators, influencers, and entrepreneurs from all sectors. Today, we're talking about something that every business owner dreads, but eventually faces, which is business debt. We're joined by Grace Munyirwa, founder of Vine Pharmacy and one of Uganda's most candid voices on business growth and debt. Grace built one of the country's biggest pharmacy chains, saw it expand, and then had to face the financial pressure that came with that pace. Grace, thank you for joining me today.
Always a pleasure, Brenda.
Grace and I know each other from a lifetime ago.
Lifetime, actually. Yeah.
Grace in 2011, 2012?
2012.
Yes, when I was working with Sebalo Andule and actually helped him with one of his finances. I wanted to talk about Vine and your experience with debt and coming out of it. When did you first realize that the company might be in some sort of financial trouble?
That was about 2018 when I realized we might be in some rabbit hole.
Right.
Salaries were delayed, rental payments were delayed, taxes were delayed. Then the competition began poaching our staff because we were delaying to pay, and I couldn't do anything about it. The staff didn't even hide. They would come and tell you, you know what, Grace, I have to leave because you're not paying in time. And so it's going to pay me. And they have promised me even a 10% back or 15% back in the pay. And they want to stay, but you made it hard for them to stay with you. I knew then it was really hard.
To take you back a little bit, in terms of financing that you obtained, how did you raise this financing and from which sources?
One of the sources was bank. So I was quite a very good client to banks. One bank actually saw me bank every day and withdraw every day. And then they said, look, may you need financing? I was actually okay not to take any financing from the banks. They said, no, don't you have cash flow shortfall? So my initial transaction was 30 million shillings. And I said, I can pay this within a month. It grew to 700 million. By the tops, it was 1.4 billion. What had started off as 30 million shillings. Private equity, we were the prime candidate. We were growing year on year. Our numbers looked good. I said, okay, we'll work with you. Before that, we'd done 2 small deals with some small PE firms, and we'd paid it back. So our history was really good. 2012, we got more money. And on top of that, 2015, they added us more money on top of what they'd given us in 2012. The wind was behind our backs. And then everything went south. But of course, there is also hidden debt, not direct debt from the suppliers.
When you now discover that you're in a bit of trouble, how did you then explain to your counterparts, your suppliers, your customers? How did that affect your relationships and how did you manage to navigate that?
Initially, when you're dealing with debt, you're in denial. You attribute it to outside factors. The communication initially is bad because you don't know the extent of the problem. And by the time you see the first symptom, maybe you're 2 years deep. Now you're thinking, maybe it was just the budget. Maybe government hasn't released the new financial year money. Maybe funders have taken off from Uganda. Maybe the weather. Maybe something from South Africa. Maybe it was Trump. You will find anyone else to blame till you see it coming again and again. We underestimate how big the problem is. Because we have had previous success, we think this is also a passing wind. 2 months, 3 months, I'll be back in the black. So you don't give it the urgency. We underestimated the depth and breadth of the problem.
People say that the hardest part of debt is knowing where to turn. So what did you do? Who did you seek advice from? What steps did you take to turn your situation around?
I first went to a friend of mine who was very spiritual. I said, this thing must be attacked in the spirit. So I went to him and he told me, no, he didn't think it was spiritual. Then I turned to friends and they didn't seem to relate, or they didn't have all the information. With debt, it's very hard also for you as a person in debt to give them the full breadth of the problem.
Yeah.
Then I started to renegotiate with the stakeholders, with the suppliers, in a bid to buy more time. So we asked for 120 days to try and mitigate the effects, but even that didn't work. Now, I studied all the books that I could find about finances and about debt to find a way of mitigating. That also didn't work. Then I tried to go back to the banks for more money. The banks didn't fund me. My numbers were not justifying the extra money I had. So you asked for a term loan for 3 years, 6 months, you want more funding, there's a problem internally. So I went to another bank and they still turned me down. I went back to the bank I had checked initially. They also turned me down for a lesser amount of money. Then I really knew things were really bad. Because by the time your ex can also jam you, then things are that's bad. I thought no one understood me until the pile of cards just came falling, because people I was supposed to pay and were not paying began suing me. And so that is when the last person I consulted was a lawyer who we both know. So he told me, if you want me to work with you, you're going to come clean about everything. Because even to him, I first gave him some information in installments. Then he got irritated. He told me, Grace, no, you have to come clean once and for all. Just tell me how bad the situation is. Write down all your debts, give them to me. Then we'll know there are no surprises.
What do you feel like were the hardest decisions in terms of practical steps to restructure debt or maybe cut costs, or anything practical that you did when things were at their worst?
First, it would be dealing with yourself. The guilt, the shame, the rumor mill was circulating around the pharmacy world. Like, that guy down. I remember at that time, I tinted all my glass windows so that I move in a car that you cannot see who I am.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want Brenda to notice me when I'm driving past them, because she demands me money. So you have to first deal with yourself. Then dealing with the stuff, that was hard. We had to let go of some stuff. I remember one group of people I had to let go. I dreaded announcing it, then eventually called them to the boardroom and let them go. I wept. I literally wept. But I knew this was a hard decision. And I had promised the staff that we would be in this forever. Me, I'm your do or die. We shall be together in this thing. You chill here. We will grow from here. Now, to see that I'm the one turning around and then laying them off, that was a difficult moment. I put up some branches for sale so that I could raise money and then put out some fires. But guess what? The people who came to buy wanted the best out of what I had. They didn't want the non-performing or the low-performing branches. They wanted the best of the best. And they knew my story, that things were bad. They were underpaying the value worth the given branch. I would sleep on it, agonize, wake up and tell the guy, you know what, send me the money. It's okay. And they were getting the branches for peanuts. So that became a very difficult moment. But also having to renegotiate with the suppliers. That was difficult because they had the rumor mill. And now, on top of the rumor mill, you're going to sell off everything and then scatter and run away with their money. So they're watching your every move. Then, of course, having to exit some locations and simply say, you know what, tomorrow, go tell the landlord we are done, give him back his keys, we are pulling out our stock. That was hard.
And this was all happening between 2018 and
2020.
And 2020. Okay, so the pandemic came while all this was happening to you.
The pandemic was good for me because then no one was demanding me some money. The banks, by March 2020, had really begun closing in on me. And I was in arrears of about 2 months. And they were really beginning to see a pattern of me not being faithful to their obligations. I remember one bank, the RM told me, you need to come and meet our ED because your record is not looking good. So we arranged a meeting in the boardroom, and that's a meeting I didn't have breakfast for. How the cortisol levels are so high, you just don't have the appetite to have breakfast. But you're being reported straight to the ED because your case has come up. Everyone is mentioning your name. And in the corridors, your name is being mentioned all the time. So they don't believe me, so you're going to face the ED directly. So that became also very difficult. So the pandemic comes, and so the banks are not asking for the loan installment. Then I get a breather for about 8 months, within which I can then reorganize myself.
What did you do?
I trimmed the branches. Remember, at our peak, we were 36.
Yeah.
So after we got the investment in 2012, we really went on an expansion spree. We did so well, we moved up to 36. Then when problems came, we reduced them to 30, then 25. By the time I realized how bad the situation was, I just made one hard decision and trimmed them down to 11.
Oh, and I know you changed your business model to franchising. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
I had wanted to, perhaps about 2010, 2013, I tried franchising in different forms, but it had failed. So end of 2018, I get this thought, why don't I try franchising? So I teach about franchising. I do a lot of research about franchising, and none of it is really hitting home. Kind of a foreign idea, and I don't see how to adapt it to the Ugandan scenario. So finally, after I read, I think, all the articles that Harvard Business Review had on franchising, believe me, I bought everything and read everything. Every book I could learn on franchising. So I finally found a model that worked, did work. But it worked because I was able to raise some money. This was a good way of raising money initially. Now, it worked. However, the gravitational pull of the debt liabilities weighed more than the return we were getting from the franchisees in terms of royalties per month, the franchise fee. It was like running on a treadmill. If we did not have the bank debt, franchising would have been a very good model.
In terms of on the practical side of it and just the emotional weight of debt and even just running a business, how do you deal with the stress as a business owner?
That time it wasn't easy, I would say. And I didn't know that my body had been really affected. One time I developed certain symptoms. I thought it was malaria, then I thought it was typhoid. Then I went for a checkup. A friend of mine in Mulago Hospital. He told me two things. One, the world doesn't begin and end with you. Two, do more exercises and eat regularly. That was it. I didn't take any medication and symptoms all disappeared to death. So I had to realize that I could die and the debt would still be there anyway. But I could live and pay the debt. So I told myself I will work hard, but I'll work for so many days. And this debt that has taken me 20 years to accumulate, I won't pay it off in 6 months. So I will lay out a plan and I faithfully follow the plan. I remember one guy was demanding us 42 million shillings. And I told him I would pay him 1 million per month. He abused me. He abused me and threw me out of his office. First of all, I had given him checks that had bounced. So then he wanted me to pay it like in 2 installments or 3 installments. And I couldn't. So when he abused me and threw me out of his office, he sent his manager to come and pick money, which he thought would be substantial. And I gave him 1 million shillings. He called me and abused me again. I paid him the next month another 1 million shillings. The third month, he didn't call me. The fourth month, he did call me. 42 months down the road, we'd paid him fully. I just said, you know what? This thing won't be solved in a week or 2 or 6 months. It's going to take time. After we made several payments, then people saw that it was predictable. Some of them came back so that we could work again with them and they offered us credit. I said, no, I'm okay. The other thing that I found out actually in dealing with debt was this. Sometimes I have to simply tell you, Brenda, I won't be able to pay you. Forgive me. I don't have to lie to you that in January, in March, in September next year, I'll be able to pay you. That situation I'm in is dire and your money is not going to come. Call me whatever you want to call me, but your money is not going to come. I also found that sometimes you can make someone an offer, actually. So Brenda demands me 10 million shillings, and I say, Brenda, I don't have your money, but today I have 5. Accept this 4 and write off the 6. Okay? I can send it to you by close of day, but please accept my offer. And sometimes some people will say, okay, you stupid man, send the money. And that kind of thing. So a bit of abuses here and sandwiched between abuses, but you end up actually settling that debt. That works. Yeah.
What do you feel was your turning point?
When I could walk on Kampala Road and not fear that I will be jacked up by some guy.
Yeah.
That's when I knew this was good. I could pick all my calls. I think for me, that was a big turning point.
And which year was it when you now felt like I have this debt under control and I can now start making different business decisions or different business moves?
That was 2022 when I got a breather. I could see progress. That's when suppliers came back. So I said, oh, Grace, your debt has gone so down now. And can we discuss new financing options? I said, the new financing options are 0.
So what would you advise like a business owner looking for funding, either from private equity or from the banks? What would you say would be the things business owners should look for before they make these big decisions?
That's a hard question because it puts me in a difficult position. I would be the one to say, don't get debt. Yet I got debt. This would be what I would think. Bank debt. The bank is not your mother. Expect no favors from the bank. 0 understanding from the bank. And catch yourself before the bank catches you. If you go back for a loan, if you go back to renew the loan with a bigger sum, you have a problem. Last year you said you wanted 200 million. Your projections were you're going to grow 5% month on month. And the evidence that you actually utilize the bank's money is that you actually don't need the bank's money. That should be the litmus test. The moment you need more money from the bank, then you have probably a broken system or a broken business model. So I would say avoid bank if you can. If you can't, let it be like a one-off. But if you go back, then the problem is more internal than external. In terms of PE funding seems to be good. I say it seems to be good because they'll give you a lot of time. But I would say that for a like ours, whose exchange rate is unstable, you're locked in. I'll give you an example, Brenda. Between 2012 and 2017, that's by 2012, if I remember correctly, the shilling to dollar was 2,650. And at the point when we exited in 2017, it was about 3,600. Now, even if you gave me the money and I did not deploy it anywhere, I remember correctly when it hit me that the shilling had lost about 47% value. So already, even if someone told you, here's $1 million, pay it back in 5 years, you already have to pay like an interest of 47%. In there is baked a problematic unless you have dollar equivalent income to defray that risk. If you don't have, then that's why I say that PE funds will seem to be okay, but then they'll have a problem. Secondly, they have normally a fixed exit multiple. So ours was, I remember very vividly, it was 2.5x. So at 2.5x, you have to invest it in clearly a multiplier investment. This is what I would recommend. Take PE investment. Take as little as possible. The PE will try to give you more than you can manage. Deploying capital is also a skill. You find that very few people are able to deploy the capital that they're actually given. You may think you're badly off, and actually what you can do, add up all your problems and it's $30,000. And so you actually don't need a PE fund. PE funds should be accessed by a few people who are mature enough to handle them and be able maybe to reject part of the offer that they're being given and only take what they can correctly absorb. But also with time I've learned that if you streamline your business processes, there's capital lying idle there that you can actually liquidate and turn into money that you actually don't need necessarily to run to the PE fund or the banks. Normally you have a lot of money that has helped you grow, that is internal. That 67% actually of the companies that seek funding don't need the funding in the first place. So if you can straighten and streamline your business processes, perhaps you have a chance. But also, I would think this way. Family and friends are an easier route that you can get funding and negotiate its payback very easily. And they are more understanding. And then you can get what you can only absorb. Plus, normally the funders come in with their way of doing business, which sometimes is different from the way you're doing business. I'll give you what we went through. So, business acceleration plan. We open a branch almost in every district. The KPI then is how many branches have you opened this month? And yet, sometimes you're growing faster than the capacity you have to grow. And so you are unable to sustain. Even if you give me money right now, there's a growth rate that I should grow healthily. If I grow beyond that, I will fail. The rate at which you're growing the management team, the maturity with which you can handle autonomy and be able to put in place measures and systems that can manage that autonomy you're giving people. Because how will you manage a branch in Mbarara? That was one of the mistakes. We quickly went to Mbarara and we couldn't manage in Mbarara. We were thinking, should you give autonomy to the branch in Mbarara to buy from the supplier in Mbarara, or you should centralize it and order from Kampala? We defaulted to ordering from Kampala. So our lead time was about a week. They couldn't compete with the fellas who are there who can get the stock within 30 minutes. So a week compared to 30 minutes, you're toast. You're dead on arrival.
That's interesting. I think your story is very inspiring. You've experienced it all. I do have one last question for you. What has been a lasting mark or a lasting impression from Vine, its growth and its story, from the day you formed the company to date?
If I look back, if I could do this all over again, Brenda, I wouldn't take debt. Debt does more to our immaturity and brings out our immaturity more than any other thing. Debt would exaggerate the capacity that you have because you're opening a branch per month. And so people think, wow, you're doing so well. And it masks all your inefficiencies, all your inadequacies are masked with debt. And then you don't have the thoroughness to be able to say no to certain things. Now that we have some money, we need a new boardroom table because you see, when these investors come in, the current boardroom will shame us. Off you go and buy a new boardroom table with all its chairs. Then what do you need for the boardroom? You need AC for the boardroom as well. Then you need tea for the boardroom. Then you need a projector or a screen, a 60-inch TV. Because now, how would you project the performance? And so, expenses creep in. If I could, I would have actually grown organically with no debt. Many people would have grown faster, but I would have lasted longer. It would have been to grow sustainably, manage my own emotions, and then grow slowly.
Well, thank you so much for being very open about your experience. Obviously, seeing how you've managed your lived experience with business debt and coming out on the other side is a great story for a lot of business owners who no doubt would want to decide either to take on debt or deal with coming out of debt. So Thank you so much for your honesty. I really, really appreciate it.
I hope other people will be able to get out of debt and stay out of debt.
We hope some lessons will be learned. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Brenda.
Thank you for listening to Viewpoints with Brenda. To keep the conversation going, follow us on Instagram at Viewpoints by BN and follow me on Twitter at Kasabiti. That's KASABIITI. To hear more conversations like this, follow the podcast, subscribe, like, and feel free to leave us a rating. See you next time.